Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Crushing Strongholds. This is a podcast where we turn pain into power, trauma into triumph. And how do we do that? We do that by exposing the lies of the enemy. And we do that by sharing testimonies of people's faith and how they have overcome strongholds in their own life. Today, I have an amazing guest that I've been super excited and anxiously waiting to have on, and can't wait to introduce him to you. His name is Willie Blake, and he is the go-to high performance coach for dyslexic professionals, ready to trade self-doubt and confidence, clarity, and daily progress. And I'm super excited because I am very familiar with this area, and I did not know, I haven't met anyone yet. So I'm super excited to dive into this that actually talks and works and discusses dyslexic. So I'm so happy that you're doing that. So Willie, welcome. Why don't you come in and say hi and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Mickey, thank you for having me on. And yeah, dyslexia is such a great topic. So I've been I'm first and foremost, love to tell people I'm a cool girl dad. I have four little girls, just bane of my existence. Love bane. I don't, is that the negative term? I love them. They are awesome. Wonderful wife. We've been married almost 9 years. And yeah, I help dyslexic adults in their professional careers in life to be able to get clarity, build confidence, and to achieve results without losing themselves in the process. And so I've been doing this for the last almost decade now, and I love being that for people because I wish I had that when I hit college and growing up and trying to learn this whole career route and everything. I wish I had that, and so I'm glad that I can be a resource to other people.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it, and like I said, I haven't met anyone yet. I've met a lot of people, and you're the first that I've met that actually is not afraid to actually speak about this because I think sometimes growing up with certain things that enable you, we hold that over ourselves. And I was kind of reading, about you and how when you were younger you felt kind of broken and you feel like there's a missing link or something's not exactly right or whatever. And I grew up with a mom that had dyslexic, and I myself am OCD, ADD, ADHD. I have a little bit of, I'm just a mix, bag of chips, whatever. But I feel like, when we're dealing with that or experiencing it, I remember talking to my mom because my mom dropped out of school in the ninth grade because she just felt dumb. She just was dumbed down. And I just was like, I used to feel so sad for her. And then I remember it was in her 40s or 50s, and I said, "Mom, go back to school. You can do it. You can do it." I was like, I was her cheerleading squad. I'm like, "Come on, you can do it, Mom." And she went back to school and got her GED in her late 40s, early 50s, whatever. She finally did it, graduated. Yes, I was like so proud of her
Yes.
because she just never felt smart enough. She was a workhorse. She taught me more than anybody could have ever taught me, and yet she felt like she was just dumb as a rock. And it used to make me really sad because she had this disability, and I was like, Mom, it's okay. So can you share some of your experiences that you went through and how you overcame them? Because again, it's a stronghold, and I'm glad to see that you have conquered it, and I would love for you to share with us.
Yeah. And I don't know if conquer is the right word. I'm still working on it, right? But I love that. I love that for your mom because so many dyslexics feel that way.
Mhm.
They're so capable and they can do so many different things. And when it comes to communication, problem solving, recognizing patterns, and just having empathy and sympathy, they are so good at just being humans with it. But then because of the weak side of having to read, difficulty with that, writing, difficult writing, speaking, sometimes we mix up our words, that we're dumb. We're left behind. We're these broken individuals. And I felt that when I grew up too. Like going through elementary school, I remember that the teacher would have each of us, they put us in that little half circle. We'd have our book in front of us. And the teacher would say, okay, we're going to start with Timmy here, and we're going to work our way around the room. Each person gets their paragraph. I wouldn't be the one listening. I'd be the one that counted the kids until it got to me to then count the paragraphs down and once I knew what mine was, I would be practicing it in my head. I'd make sure I got the big words down and that when I finally was able to just say the paragraph, I would do it flawlessly because the traditional school system does weigh a little bit heavier on reading and writing and memorization. which the way that dyslexics brains are wired, they're wired a little bit differently, and those tend to hurt because of the way in which we process information.
Now,
So of
can you?
course, oh,
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I was going to say, can you also, while you're telling this, will you go into a little bit, just kind of explaining for our listeners, just in case they don't understand exactly what dyslexic is, if you could also dive into that a little bit and explain it as well?
Yes. You want to know what, listeners? We're going in the simplest form possible here.
Okay.
Dyslexia, in the basic of basic, is we process information differently. So
Mhm.
whether that is how we intake it, whether how we read or how we listen to things, how we internalize it within our head or interpret it, and then how we communicate it outwards. So dyslexia kind of has this umbrella of, if you break up the word, you have dys, which means difficult, and then lexia, which means reading. But usually a lot more goes under that umbrella because there's like I'm going to be a little scientific nerd here for a second. You got dysgraphia, which is difficulty with reading. You got dyscalculia, which is difficulty with math, and dyspraxia, which is like hand-eye coordination. All of that tends to go under the umbrella of dyslexia. And so all of it is just the difficulty we have with insert mental ability that is hard for us to go through. So some people, depending on the person, depends on the severity of it. For me, it was reading and speaking. For others, it could be somewhere else. But that's what dyslexia is. It's the difficulty with reading or math or writing or any of those other areas.
Right.
But yeah, to finish that previous question, growing up with it, you can just imagine a kid who was trying to get A's in school, trying to make sure the teacher was happy, and then his friends and the students were happy, and then his parents were happy. But then the grades would come home and they weren't too good. And that because of you have to have this test done within 5 minutes, but it takes a little bit longer for me to figure out the equation or the paragraph to read to answer the question. I wouldn't get the 100% that everyone else could easily do. It was like double the effort just to be average like everybody else. And that took a hit. Made me feel broken like your mom. It made me feel dumb. And over time, it's like I kind of just want to give up. I don't want to go after my dreams because if I do, there's going to be more mistakes and failures. And more importantly, everyone else tends to get after me. So I'm going to people please. I'm going to make sure everyone else is taken care of, and then I just get the leftovers that are behind.
Wow. That's crazy. I can completely relate with that. And watching my mom go through that, and seeing her struggle, she would ask me, hey, how do you spell this? She'd be like real quiet, how do you spell this? And we'd go to the bank and she'd be like, I need you to write out my check or something, and I'd be like, you got this, mom. And she's like, no, 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 just do it, because she didn't want anybody to see or, make her feel, so, and I would, even if I would just show her or tell her how to spell it, that alone even made her feel stupid if it was done in front of somebody. She didn't like it, she didn't like that. And so it made her feel like very uncomfortable. So I can totally relate with, that kind of pressure. Now, when you were growing up, was it recognized growing up, or did you have an IEP, or did you not have an IEP? Or was it not recognized that you had dyslexic?
So I was diagnosed around 6 or 7 years old. There
Okay,
was
yeah.
like the school did a little test or some reading thing. We went to separate classroom. They had each of us read this piece of paper, and that's when the school indicated to my parents, "Hey, just watch this. Your kid could struggle with reading."
So did they put you in an IEP for that, or they just worked with you
With
on that?
dyslexia.
I think we got cut off for a minute. I'm sorry. We went blank on us for a minute. You were still talking. I apologize. It stopped, so I thought you were done. But did you have to, when you took your test for the reading, well, I don't know if you remember it or not. Did they ever put you in a special group for it, or they just worked with you individually to help you, get over that hurdle?
Uh, Specifically, like when I was diagnosed, no, but within the first couple years, yeah, every Friday for the last hour, I'd go to a separate classroom with a few other kids, which I assume they were also dyslexic, and we'd do a little flashcards and reading and have fun with games to help with dyslexia.
Oh, good, good, yeah. I know that with a lot of schools now, they can kind of kind of pinpoint it ahead enough time where they can help you try to overcome that hurdle. And some kids they have an IEP and all of that going through their school ages. But now, as an adult, knowing that you have this, you decided. When did you decide? You know what? I'm not gonna stay broken. I'm just gonna get up. I'm just gonna like we're gonna do this. We're gonna start working and helping other people that are struggling with this. What made you decide to become a coach for this?
Yeah, I wish it was sooner. I wish I could be like, I had this huge revolutionary idea that dyslexia coaching people need it. No, it was so halfway through college, I was switching from an accounting degree to a business degree because I realized I didn't like sitting behind a desk. I wanted to get up and talk with people. I like that more. And I came across a statistic that said 95% of CEOs read 50 or more books a year. I
Mm.
thought, okay, I'm going into business. Being a CEO would be pretty cool. Ain't no way I'm reading 50. Ain't happening. But I can start with something. So I set a goal of 12 books. That's when, and I grabbed the smallest self help book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, opened it to chapter one and started to read. And from there, it went from that one book to a couple, to then a dozen, and then a couple dozen. And I continue to read a vast amount of books today. But it was that moment where I started to understand this world of entrepreneurship and business and finance and psychology. And my thoughts started to change from this black and white area of dyslexia is bad. This is good. It's like, no, everything has its good and bad.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you just get to choose, and it's your choice for the life you want to live. And it was a fast forward a couple of years. I was talking with a friend after a networking group, and it was raining outside. We're in like the middle of the doors between the lobby and the outside, and had like an hour and a half conversation. I told him, I'm doing this coaching. I've been doing coaching for about a year and a half now. And I was like, I'm not having any success. Only client I have was my cousin, and he just thought I was doing something cool, so he jumped on board. But like, I'm just this empowerment coach. I want to help empower people, help them believe in themselves. But no one's coming. I'm talking to everybody. But as you and I know now, when you talk to everybody, nobody listens. You got to talk to their pain points.
Yeah.
So my friend Ian said, well, dude, you're dyslexic. You've been dyslexic your entire life, and that's the most experience that you have with anything you've done. Why not help people in that area? And I pushed him off. I'm like, yeah, cool. That sounds great. But on the drive home, I thought more about it and thought that doesn't sound like a bad idea. So
Yeah.
then I started to learn more about dyslexia and things that I've done with it. And that's led to the trajectory of where we are today. Just that small conversation of, dude, you have experience with it. Why don't you help other people? Because you've done stuff, help them do the same. And that's now led to where I am today.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think that like as a coach myself, that I was like you. I jumped in and wanted to just help everyone. And I'm thinking, well, we all, like you said, we all need something, right? We all need help. So we think we can fix everyone. But yeah, once you realize you have to narrow it in on a specific thing, and when you narrow into something that you're really good at, and it's interesting with me when I think about what you're doing because you felt so broken with what you're good at, but yet your broken parts of you is what actually made you good at what you're doing. And that's crazy because it kind of like it literally formed and shaped your whole career and your life, but by the struggle that you went through. And I think that's amazing. So in your framework, you talk about the number two rule. Do you mind sharing what that might be or what that is? I don't want you to give all your
Yes.
coaching techniques away because I know, I want to encourage people to check you out and come find you, but I would love to hear more about a little bit more about your framework and the 2% rule.
Yes. First and foremost, like I give what I have away. Just
Oh,
what I
nice.
have.
Good.
It's out there. People see it. Because you can go on the whole psychology and systems of it all, but I just want to help people. And I found like when you give what you have and not really keep it secret, then more people come to you. It's like, oh, I get that. That relates. It comes to me. And then when I get on those calls with my clients or ones who are wanting to be clients, then we make it more customizable. make it more personal to them. And that's where like the secret to the sauce is and whatnot. But I love sharing the different frameworks I have. So the 2% rule. So this 2% rule came from when I was reading first reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad book and all the rest of them, which is taking 2% action every single day to get to your goal.
Hmm.
If that goal you want is 100%, that's like your bucket list, to-do list, check mark box item, you reach it, 100% completion. Then it's taking 2% action each day that leads you to the goal. And I love 2%, and here's why. Because when you focus on 100%, I've seen this. When you focus on 100%, we hit this realm of analysis paralysis. There is so much going on that you have to get done, you don't even start. And so it's 2% is small enough to where it's bite size. You can do it every single day and it's not overwhelming. On the flip side, I also like it because it's bigger than 1%. Those who tend to focus on 1%, it doesn't get a fire within you. It doesn't get you like passionate and out of your comfort zone. So you do 1% changes, but they're usually things that you already do and aren't things that you haven't done before. And so 2% is that big enough of I'm excited, this is possible, and I'm doing something that I'm not really comfortable with, but can do, and also small enough to where now I'm not thinking about the whole picture every single day. It's okay, just for today, I'm going to read chapter one. Just for today, I'm going to take a 10-minute walk. Just for today, I'm going to call those 3 people in which I have been procrastinating on for these last 2 months. And that's the 2% rule.
That's awesome. I love that. I think that we sometimes put the cart before the horse, as they say back in the day. We fill up that cart with all these ideas, but then we forget to attach it, put the horse in front to pull it along. But I think that sometimes I've done this. I've done exactly what you're saying, so I can totally relate to that. Where you just have these ideas and then you just sit on them, you just bank them. They're sitting on the back burner, and it's because they're so far out of reach. You put them so far out of reach, you just can't fathom it actually come into life until you do like what you said, just take those little baby steps, and enough to keep you motivated, but also enough to keep you excited about what you're doing. I think that's a really good goal to have. Now, what about the GPS goal method?
Yes, the GPS goal method works hand in hand with the 2% rule. Crazy
Yes, I can
enough, it's
see
like
it.
I want to keep these simple or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So, GPS rule, it's for you and I all know this and our older listeners, but the ones who are newer might not. The GPS. Back when they used to have these maps that you'd pull out in a car to be able to go somewhere. Then they came up with this really cool technology that was the global positioning system, where it told you where you want to go, where you're at, and gave you directions. Now we call it Apple Maps and Google Maps. So the GPS, it's based off of that, but it's an acronym. G is for get clear. P is for plan or plan it. And then S is for start now.
Hmm.
So G for get clear, you want to know where is it that you're going and where are you starting from? Because when you know that, then you know the direction that you need to head. Then once you know what you want and where you're at, then you take that goal and you create the plan. Something that works well for me and my clients is called reverse engineering. So we take that goal that we want and work our way backwards. If you've ever been to a restaurant where it has those little kid menus and has the maze that's on there, anytime I go there with my kids, I always think from the back to the front. So when I finally put crayon to paper, I can do it flawlessly. And that's what we got to do with our goals is we start at the back and work our way forward. Because if we start here, there are hundreds of options. But if we start in the back, we have a clearer goal. We have milestones along the way, create the blueprint to then do the third one, which is then start now. It's starting. You got the plan, you got the excitement, you got the goal, but now it's time to start. And my favorite quick analogy to go with that is Mickey, you and I are going to Disneyland. You and I are going to take an awesome vacation to Disneyland. We are at we're hanging out in northern Texas for some odd reason. That's where we're starting. Going all the way to California to Disneyland. We know where we're going. We know where we're at. We open our Google Maps, click the directions. It has shows the exact map to it and even gives us alternate routes to take. It takes us around the construction and around the traffic. We're like, awesome. We hit start, we put it on our little phone thing at the top of our car, and we are ready to go. But what if we never take the car out of park? Are we going to get there?
Um,
No. It doesn't matter how excited we are. It doesn't matter if we are so clear on the plan and that we used AI to create the perfect business plan or the perfect route. It doesn't matter if we avoid construction to traffic. If we don't take our car out of park, nothing else matters. And so with the plan and with knowing how, after we get clear, it's to now let's start getting into motion because it's the motion that's going to help us get there.
I love that. I always say it's the motion that moves the ocean, so you might want to get to moving. But it's kind of crazy because I think about it like um, a lot of times people sit back on it because they're afraid of the failure. They're afraid of the what ifs, the what if this, what if that. And I think the what ifs hold us back more than we'd like to admit to. I know I've held myself back with some of the what ifs in life and thought, man, why didn't I just take that leap of faith and jump out there, and just take a chance and try it. And again, if you don't at least press forward and start, you'll never know. You'll never know if you're going to fail or not. I mean, you can't fail at something you haven't even tried to start. And I always say failure's not an option if you can't, like you said, if you can't take the car out of park, then you're obviously never going to fail, but you're also never going to succeed either. So it depends on kind of what you want in life, I think. But when we trade, our thought process for what we want opposed to what we're actually going to do, it's that shift that we have to make. And sometimes we get stuck right in the middle of, taking ourselves out of gear, I think. But now with this the dynamic of being dyslexia, what do you encourage our listeners? So let's say we have some listeners that actually are like, oh, that's me. They're talking about me. I know they're talking about me. What are they doing? I think they're sitting in the living room with me. I think that's me. What advice would you give them, especially, I mean, obviously to get up and go and start, but if they're questioning and guessing themselves and they just feel like, you see all of these people being successful, but that's just not me. What would you do to encourage them not to have that fear or to think that they cannot overcome something of that gratitude?
Mm, great question. The first thing that comes to my mind is the word possibility. Just just see the possibility. What if it could happen? What if that success that you want? What if that relationship with God that you want or your spouse? What if what if that extra zero in the bank account or that being able to just feel at inner peace, what if it is possible? Let that plant its own little seed in your mind. Because from what I've experienced, I tend to doubt my faith a lot. And faith being, of course, could be in a spiritual sense, but also in the verbiage of doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith, in the verbiage of like who I am. I doubt myself before I doubt these thoughts that I have. These little thoughts that come in and out of our heads all the time, they're not us.
Hmm.
They're not us. They're simple little wordy thingies that float in the air that come into our mind and back out. That's all they are. They're just thoughts that come into our head. It's the ones that we act upon that then turn into habits and then our character and then turn into our destiny. Those are the ones that tend to be who we are. But just having the thought doesn't make you a horrible person. Just having the thought of being behind and being broken doesn't make you a broken person. Or lazy or fat doesn't mean that you're lazy or fat. It's just a thought that you have. But you look at what you're doing. And those things that you're doing, if they're creating the life that you want, good for you. Keep doing them. But if you're like me a lot of the time, sitting there thinking, I don't know if I can do this. Literally, just this morning, I got an email from a very high, who I see as like a high influential person, and I had a lot of doubts in my head. I'm like, am I worth being able to collaborate with this person? Like this, they've helped me get these 6 other connections, and I'm sure a lot more as the days to come. Like, do I send an email back? And man, I need to get AI so I make it perfect. Because if it's not perfect, then I'll ruin this relationship. It's like, no, no, we're worth it. And
Hmm.
I did send out that email, by the way. But like, we're worth it. We ourselves are our souls. We are our spirits. We are created and brought here for such a greater purpose than what we just have for ourselves. Both of us are here talking to help other people. That's outside of ourselves, and not in like an ego side, but like we want to help people. We want a world in which we get this peace and love. We want people to have light that people can inspire, that we feel grateful, and especially being able to feel hope. And at the end of the day, we get to use the time that we have for the things that we love to do. And so that advice I'd give is one, just, just take a little challenge from Willie and look at the possibility of what can happen. And then realize that you are so capable. For me, dyslexia and all, I am so capable. For you who might have a something neurodivergent of ADHD, OCD, autistic, or even more, or you feel like that New Year's resolution that you set that you haven't gotten it yet, realize that you're not that. You just have it. And it's a God-given gift that God's giving you to be different. And that's different in a good sense because it's something that you've been given to help other people out.
Yeah. I think when I see people, especially like with OCD, because I'm OCD to an extent. I'm not
Me too.
completely obsessive, but I am OCD. My son is too, and it's really funny because when I didn't even realize I was OCD until after my son was diagnosed with it, and I was like, man, I wonder where he gets this from. He must be getting this from his dad, right? And everybody's like, have you ever looked in the mirror? Because like I have to have things in certain orders, and it just drives me nuts, and it's crazy. And in my home life, my work life, everything had to have a certain specific uh, order of operations, or I'd go a little crazy with it. But I've gotten better in my age to not let it bother me as much as it used to bother me. But when I watched my son go through it, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how much certain things really frustrated him and disturbed him. And I thought, well, I got to help him get through that. How do I help him get through that frustration? And I didn't take the frustration away. What I did is taught him how to deal with the frustration instead of just like, let's eliminate it because it's going to be there in life. One of his chores was literally, which he was a germaphobe, so he had to take out the trash. And let me tell you, for a germaphobe, that was not the chore that he wanted, in other than cleaning a toilet. It was like, no way,
Oh,
no
yeah.
way, right? Those are the two things you don't give a germaphobe. Like, I can't, And so he got himself to where he could take the trash out. But if the trash bag fell inside the trash can, he would have a meltdown. He would fall on the floor and just be freaking out. And he'd be like, I can't, I can't, I can't. And I'm like, yes, you can. He's like, it's inside, it's inside. And so I made sure I got garbage bags that were a little tighter or had the elastic so that he could work with that. But he still had to take out the trash. I mean, we worked with the frustration, but we didn't take the frustration away. And I think with every like anything that we go through in life, sometimes we enable people because we take that frustration away and we don't teach them how to work through the frustration. We just take it away and make it easy for them. And then they're just still stuck with what they have and they don't know how to take what they have and work through the things that life is going to throw at them. And I had to learn, like with my son, I'm like, he's got to learn to take out the trash. He's got to learn. And when he gets older, he's going to take out his own trash. I'm not coming over there to do it when he's 18, 20, whatever. And so, and now he does. Now he's really clean. He always takes out the trash, but it took years of him having to do it repetitively and having those meltdowns and having those moments of frustration and getting him through it. And I remember feeling sometimes that, oh, he probably thinks I'm just so mean. I'm such a mean mommy for making him take out the trash. But I would do it anyway. I'd have him do it anyway. And he told me when he was older, he said it never really bothered him that I made him do it. He just was so afraid of the trash. He said I didn't realize how afraid he was of the germs. And so And this is a kid that would take 2 or 3 showers a day. He was like really a germaphobe. He took a lot of showers. So we got him over it. But I think when you have any type of learning or any type of ADHD, ADD, Asperger's, autism, there's a lot of different spectrums. Now it's all just combined into one now. They don't even have different acronyms for them anymore. They put them all into one because I think a lot of them sometimes can be connected to others. There are specific areas where it's relevant that specific people have specifically, diagnosed issues, but I do believe that some cross over with each other. I think that's probably why they put them all together. I don't know exactly why they did that, but for myself, I figured, as long as we can overcome it, then we're going to be all right with it. And as long as we don't sit in there and just let that destroy who we are, then we'll be okay. We can do anything as long as we overcome it. And so I don't know, like with what you've gone through and how you've overcome, um, maybe share with our listeners, like what was the actual breaking point for you where you were just like, this is enough. I am not going to let this hold me back any further. I'm done. I can do this. I can do this. And I know, like what you said in the beginning, it's a daily probably thing. It's a thing that just keeps it's a reminder that you have to keep giving yourself. But at what point, like, how old were you, do you think, when you were like, okay, I've got this. I can handle this. I know what to do with this. I know what to do. I know the tools to use. At what point did you get to for that to happen in your life? I know that was a lot. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I love it because to reply to the first part, it's it you did that so masterfully with your son in the trash. Like avoiding anything is never going to make it better.
Right.
Never. But it's when you embrace it, when you just push through whatever word you want to use, the pain, the challenge, the obstacle. It's when you push through it, that's where progress is. And of course, it's going to be hard and painful. But in the end, you get better from it. You become better. And we need not nice adults, but we need kind adults who are
Mhm.
honest, who are like, you gotta take out the trash. Like we'll work around you in the beginning. We'll get bags that tighten around the trash can so it doesn't fall in, but it's still your responsibility. And we learn to manage it and we learn to grow from it. And with neurodivergency, it's never able to overcome. As of right now, there's no way to heal from it, but there's ways to manage it. And there's ways to turn it into an advantage. I've experienced that with my dyslexia, and the people I've worked with have seen it with their dyslexia. I also work with people with ADHD and autism, and they see it too. Of the ability to be in motion has helped them out quite a bit. Now to the question of like when was that moment? It actually wasn't with dyslexia, but it definitely involved it. So it was a year and a half into college, and this was before I switched my major. I was at the I was at UVU. That was my alumni school, and I was in the business department. And I remember within a week of each other, I got two texts. Both were from my mom. One was about one of my cousins, and the other one was about a childhood friend. And the texts were that both of them had taken their life
Mhm.
and succeeded with it. And for anyone who's been through hard moments like that, you know you know where you were at, you know who was around you. Like those moments are very vivid because they made an impact. When I got that second text about my childhood best friend, and after a lot of tears went down my face in public, by the way, because I was at school, I remember grabbing a post-it note and I remember writing on it, and it said something like this: I'm never going to let people I care about think that this is a choice for them, that suicide is a choice for them. And from that moment, anytime I would be around my cousins who I didn't know their names, I'd get to know their names.
Mm.
I get to know a little bit about them because that was one of the reasons why my cousin took his life. And it was that moment that really was this big turning point for me of it's not all about money systems. It's not all about business or college degrees or careers or anything. It's about the humans.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, it's about the humans. And so from there, I my I have this thing called my one word why, which if you think of like a why statement, it's that smushed into a single word. For me, it's light. Because I want to be a light to people and I want other people to have light within themselves. The opposite of that is darkness. I hate darkness. I hate challenges and obstacles. I hate when people feel like they have no hope. And so for years, I'm just like, that's my why. And it's only recently where I created an acronym for it that helped me describe it to myself a little bit better. And that is G is for gratitude, H is for hope, and T is for time, because that's truly all that we have. So, with the love that I have for people, the way I want to inspire others and have them inspire others, the gratitude which I feel for myself, and the gratitude I want others to feel, the hope that we live in, amongst this chaos world that we live in,
Mhm.
that we have hope for the future and that we can use the time for what we have. And that's mixed with my dyslexia, mixed with my OCD too, and with wanting to just make everything better. That was the turning moment of me accepting for myself that other people are going to make choices regardless if I'm there or not.
Right.
But maybe if I am there, they'll make a different choice. And that's helped lead me through my coaching.
Wow. I'm really sorry to hear about your cousin and your friends, by the way. That's
Thank you for that.
always devastating to hear such tragic news. I've been around, not a lot of suicidal, but a lot of close suicidal attempts. And so it can be really frightening for someone to actually do that. But it makes you wonder how low a person has to go in order to lose all of their self-value to where they don't think they can make it through anymore. And it just makes my heart really sad. And one thing that it comes to mind as a Christian and with crushing strongholds is that with faith and fear, you can't operate in both. You can only operate in one. And I always encourage people to just keep faith, just keep pressing into faith because the fear is going to drown you. The fear is where the darkness comes from. The fear is what takes you out. But if you just have that little tiny bit of faith, you can conquer and you can overcome and you can overexceed and you can get through challenges and you can do so many things with a little bit of faith opposed to having a little bit of fear. And so I always encourage faith all the way. And I know it happens, but we cannot operate in both. And like Peter, when he stepped out on the boat, it wasn't that he didn't believe in Jesus or that he wasn't there, is that he got scared. It's that little bit of fear that made him start sinking. And so once he realized he had to have the faith, his faith came back and put his eyes back on Jesus. Jesus was like, "Oh, ye of little faith." And that's why he says that, because he's like, you can't operate in fear and faith at the same time. You've got to have the faith to stand on the water. And so I love that story and that analogy because I think that we often do that with ourselves sometimes where we allow the fear approaches us and instead of looking the other way to faith, we lean into the fear and it can become really dark and scary. So I definitely agree. I think holding on to the light and being the light has a lot of hope and power and it's very exciting for people to see that and they want to cling to that. Most people don't run into the darkness, they run into the light. So and I usually encourage that
Yes,
too because you don't know what you're running into if you can't see. So but
exactly. And when
yep.
when God and Jesus, when they were creating light and darkness, it wasn't just light and darkness, it was light and lesser light.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
the void.
it's yeah, it's like even the smallest little light is going to outshine any darkness that's there. You light a little candle and for some reason my mind jumps to like being in a cabin with my family. It's like pitch black. Like you light a candle, all of a sudden, even though it's not bright, it illuminates everything in the room. And so it's just like that little light, that little faith, that little seed of just hope and ability, like run with that. Just start doing it, start working toward it, because that's going to grow. That's how, instead of, as Jesus talks in the Sermon on the Mount, don't hide behind a bush. Don't put it under a bushel. Like, have it be out there for other people. Because even though it's small, you're going to be a light. And then everyone is able to grow their light together.
Exactly. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So can you do me a favor and can you tell our listeners like how they can how where they can find you and I'm going to put all of that information in the show notes, but I like for you to be able to share where they can get a hold of you at.
Yes. Yes. Best place to get a hold of me. I like simple, all in one place. So my website, coachwillieblake.com. There you'll be able to find links to my socials to connect with me, as well as my podcast to listen, being able to work with me if that's what you want, as well as resources that I share with amazing listeners on awesome podcasts like these, of just free ebooks. One of them being called Break Free, for breaking the limitations that we have, what their names are, and how to break them. And so that's all in one place where people can be able to find me and break free from what they're from the limitation chains that they hold.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that information. And yeah, I like that you're humble, but I think it's amazing that you've been on like over 500 stages and you've hit over 100 podcasts and I'm excited. My goal is to hit 100. I'm almost there. So I'm,
Yes.
I'm following you. I'm right behind you now. But no, it's exciting to see that, I love that you have all that progress and I can't wait to listen to more of your episodes and whatnot. But I am really, really thankful that you were able to just not be afraid and step out and speak on behalf of dyslexia because again, my mom had it, and I just, it really burdened my heart to see how much it bothered her and how it held her back from what I think she could have done so much more with herself, but she was just so afraid to because she just felt like people would look down on her all the time. And so I'm really thankful that I came across you and that you are doing this because there's so many people out there that just feel inadequate. They don't just don't feel like they're going to measure up. And man, is that so far from the truth. I always tell people, I go, you know what? The people that God chose in the Bible, they were all inadequate. Every one of them. So, and I go, and I guarantee you what you have is probably way worse than what they have or whatever, but we all have imperfections, but God perfected us perfectly. We're all masterful. And I love that because I don't want anybody to ever feel lesser than what God imagined them to be in the very beginning, and He created us masterfully. So I think it's important in helping people with their identity that no matter what it is, whether it's OCD, like, you and I, or ADHD or dyslexia, it's like, um, God has so much for everyone, to do. And you can do it. They don't have to be afraid of it. So in closing today, what can you tell our listeners? Just give one more, you already gave quite a bit, but give one more little glimpse of hope out there to our listeners that might be hearing what we're saying today.
Yes. It's going to be off of what you just said. God uses you as you are today. Today, all your weaknesses, struggles, obstacles, feelings, emotions, like capabilities, talents, he uses you for what you have today. So don't think that you need to be anything more to just start. Because, like it mentions in the book of Ephesians, you were once darkness, but now you're children of light. Walk as a child of light.
That's good. That's a good word right there. So, well, Willie, thank you again for coming on. I'm glad we finally were able to connect. It's been fun and what an honor it was for me to have you. And definitely I'm going to be sharing your information. It'll be in the show notes, like I said, for all of our listeners to reach out to you. And if they have more questions, they can ask you. What an inspiring conversation that we've had. And thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for not being afraid to step out on, what God walked you through and now you're using that for the greater good of the kingdom, I think. So I think it's awesome that you're doing that. Is there anything you want to say or ask of me before we close out today?
Thank you for the opportunity. I love being on here, and you listeners better be like subscribed and like and do all that stuff to this podcast because it's awesome.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that. Thanks. No, thanks. See, that's why I knew I had to ask you for something. No, no. Yes, thank. Yeah, make sure y'all like, follow, and share. That'd be wonderful. We appreciate it. We really do. For all of our listeners that do that, it does help us. But again, we also want to help you. So that's what Willie and I are both doing in our podcast realm of the world. And so y'all have a great day. And I just want to say thank you for coming to Crushing Strongholds. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. So y'all have a great time. And hey, don't forget to look us up at crushingstrongholds.com if you have any questions or if you need prayer for anything, you can reach me there. So y'all take care.